Once again, our topic for today is free will versus determinism, and I am Romana Diana Castillo, your online learning coordinator for today. As you can see, when we are talking about free will, we are talking about, are you free on choosing your own destiny, or is your destiny already predetermined? For example, as if someone already prophesied that who would you become in the future. So that's what we are talking about here. So let's talk about free will versus determinism. Some conceive of free will as the right to act outside of external influences or wishes. Some conceive free will to be the capacity to make choices undetermined by past events. Determinism suggests that only one course of events is possible, which is inconsistent with a libertarian model of free will. So the free will versus determinism debate revolves around how our behavior results from forces over which we have no control, or whether people can decide to act or behave in a certain way. So the determinist approach proposes that all behavior has a cause and is thus predictable. For them, free will is an illusion, and our behavior is governed by internal or external forces over which we have no control. Determinism is the view that free will is an illusion and that our behavior is governed by internal or external forces over which we have no control. Consequently, our behavior is viewed as predictable. The causal laws of determinism from the basis of science. So, when we are talking about external determinism, it sees the cause of behavior as being outside the individual, such as parental influence, the media, or school. Approaches that adopt this position include behaviorism and social learning theory. For example, Bandura showed that children become aggressive through observation and imitation of violent parents. When we are actually talking about behaviorism, it actually focuses on the idea that all behaviors are learned through interaction with the environment. This learning theory states that behaviors are learned from the environment and says that innate or inherited factors have very little influence on behavior. Then, social learning theory suggests that social behavior is learned by observing and imitating the behavior of others. For example, you notice that your parents are very faithful to God, then you would do the same thing. Okay? That's another example for external determinism. And internal determinism, the other main supporters of determinism are those who adopt a biological perspective. However, for them, it is internal, not external. Forces that are the determining factor, according to sociobiology, evolution governs the behavior of a species and the genetic inheritance that of each individual within it. For example, Bowlby states a child has an innate need to attach to one main attachment. figure. Personality traits like extroversion or neuroticism and the behavior associated with them are triggered by neurological and hormonal processes within the body. There is no need for the concept of an autonomous human being. Ultimately, this view sees us as no more than biological machines, and even consciousness itself is interpreted as a level of arousal in the nervous system. And so, an example of this would be a question: are psychopaths created, or are they actually biologically done like that? So, that's another question in philosophy. Okay, are they innate psychopaths or they got it externally? Then, psychic determinism. Freud also viewed behavior as being controlled from inside the individual through unconscious motivation or childhood events, known as psychic determinism. Freud used this principle to explain phenomena like slips of the tongue, Freudian sleeps, dreams, and symptoms of mental disorders, arguing that they all have meaningful explanations rooted in the individual's unconscious mind. Anyway, the whole name of Freud is Sigmund Freud. So he is an Austrian neurologist. So different levels of determinism. So we do have hard determinism. So this sees free will as an illusion and believes that every event and action has a cause. Core determinism is a philosophical position that consists of two main claims: determinism is true, free will is an illusion. So, core determinism is a philosophical position that asserts that all events and actions, including human choices and decisions, are predetermined and inevitable. According to hard determinism, every aspect of the universe, including the thoughts and behaviors of individuals, is governed by a chain of causation that was set in motion by the conditions existing at the time of the universe inception, as if it was already planned long before, as if someone already wrote your story. That's what we are talking about here in hard determinism, right? So, key features of hard determinism. First is causality. Hard determinism relies on the principle of causality, asserting that every event has a cause and every cause has an effect. In this view, the entire course of events is a continuous chain of causation. Then, lack of free will. One of the most significant implications of core determinism is the denial of free will. If all events are predetermined, then individuals do not have genuine freedom to make choices, as if your choices are already planned before. Okay? And so even seemingly voluntary actions are seen as inevitable outcome of preceding causes. For example, you help a grandmother pass through a road. Somehow that thought and we are thinking about it, that happened because it was already predetermined. And not an act of free will. So, deterministic universe or determinism extends its viewpoint to the entire universe, suggesting that the initial conditions of the cosmos and the laws of nature determine the unfolding of events. Human actions, thoughts, and decisions are no exception to this overarching determinism. The implications for morality and responsibility, the denial of free will in hard determinism raises questions about moral responsibility. If individuals are not genuinely free to choose their actions, the basis for holding them morally accountable for those actions is challenged. And compatibility with science, some proponents of hard determinism argue that a deterministic worldview is consistent with the findings of modern science, particularly physics. They argue that the deterministic nature of physical laws supports the idea that everything, including human behavior, is predetermined. And let's talk about an example of determinism in literature. So let's talk about Oedipus' story. So the story of Oedipus is told in Sophocles' play Oedipus Rex, also known as Oedipus the King, is one of the famous tales in Greek mythology and literature. It is often associated with the concept of determinism, particularly in the context of fate and prophecy. So Oedipus was the son of King Laius and Queen Eucasta of Thebes. Even before Oedipus' birth, a prophecy foretold that Laius' son would grow up to kill his father and marry his mother. During this prophecy, Laius and Eucasta attempted to thwart fate by abandoning their infant son on a mountain with his ankles pierced, hence the name Oedipus, which means swollen foot. He was found and raised by the king and queen of Corinth. As he grew up in Corinth, Oedipus learned of the prophecy and left to avoid fulfilling it, thinking that the king and queen of Corinth were his biological parents. However, in an attempt to escape his fate, Oedipus unknowingly headed toward Thebes, where he encountered King Laius on the road and killed him in a fit of rage during a quarrel over the right of way. Oedipus continued to Thebes, where he solved the riddle of the Sphinx, freeing the city from a terrible plague, and as a reward, he was made king of Thebes. Oedipus subsequently married Casta, who was, unbeknownst to him, his biological mother. And so the tragedy of Oedipus is that he unknowingly fulfilled the prophecy despite his efforts to escape it. This story is often used to illustrate the concept of determinism, where individuals are bound by fate and their actions are predestined. Oedipus' fate, as foretold by the prophecy, is an example of this determinism. He tried to avoid prophecy but ultimately fulfilled it through a series of seemingly unrelated events. So, the play Oedipus Rex explores themes of fate, free will, and the inevitability of destiny. It raises questions about the extent to which individuals can escape their predetermined destinies and whether the gods are controlling human lives. Oedipus' tragic downfall serves as a warning about the limits of human agency in the face of a preordained fate. The story of Oedipus continues to be a powerful and thought provoking exploration of determinism in literature and philosophy. Then, now let's talk about soft determinism. So it is also known as compatibilism. It is a philosophical position that seeks to reconcile the concept of determinism with the possibility of free will, unlike hard determinism, which denies the existence of free will in the face of determinism. Soft determinism holds that determinism and free will can coexist. So soft determinism represents a middle ground. People do have a choice, but that choice is constrained by external or internal factors. For example, being poor doesn't make you steal, but it may make you more likely to take that route through desperation. Soft determinism suggests that some behaviors are more constrained than others and that there is an element of free will in all behavior. However, a problem with determinism is that it is inconsistent with society's ideas of responsibility and self control that form the basis of our moral and legal obligations. Because, for one, if things are predetermined, then every action, even those who do immoral things, we might say they were pretty much planned and it wasn't actually their own action. Then, determinism, when we talk about time travel, so the concept of determinism takes on interesting implications when considering time travel. Determinism posits that every event, including human actions and decisions, is determined by preceding events in accordance with laws of nature. When applied to time travel, several perspectives emerge depending on how one conceptualizes the nature of time. Anyway, I wanted to mention Stephen Hawking, who actually uh, made a party before for time travelers because, for one, he actually believes in time travelers. For him, uh, with Stephen Hawking, he created that because he believes that after he gave all those invitations, even if no one goes to his timeline, and if things are actually predetermined, for one, in other timelines, those time travelers would go to his house and have a party. So that's what he believes. Okay? That's what Stephen Hawking actually believes. So let's continue. So fixed timeline or block universe or four-dimensionalism. In a deterministic framework, some models of time travel suggest that a past, present, and future exist simultaneously. This is often referred to as a blocked universe or a fixed timeline. According to this view, if time travel were possible, any action taken by a time traveler has already occurred in the past and is part of the predetermined course of events. In this sense, determinism would still apply. That means no matter what he tries to change in his past or future, it will still happen. Then, dynamic timeline or multiple timelines. Other models of time travel propose a dynamic timeline or the existence of multiple timelines. In these scenarios, time travel may lead to the creation of parallel universes or alternative timelines. That's what we are actually saying as a butterfly effect. So determinism, in the traditional sense, might still apply within each individual timeline, but different timelines could evolve differently based on the actions of time travelers. This introduces a more complex picture as the determinism within a given timeline doesn't necessarily extend across all timelines. For example, you are a time traveler and then it was already said that your friend would die, then you saved him or her, you just diverged and created a parallel universe. So, once again, Stephen Hawking. For Stephen Hawking, time travel used to be the thought of just science fiction. But Einstein's general theory of relativity allows for the possibility that we could warp space time so much that you could go off in a rocket and return before you set out. So, yes, they actually are talking about wormholes here and also uh, are black holes. They believe that those things actually are about our time. Now, let's talk about free will. So, free will in philosophy and science, the supposed power or capacity of humans to make decisions or perform actions independently of any prior event or state of the universe. Arguments for free will have been based on subjective experience of freedom, on sentiments of guilt, on revealed religion, and on the common assumption of individual moral responsibility that underlies the concepts of law, reward, punishment, and incentive. In theology, the existence of free will must be reconciled with God's omniscience and benevolence and with divine grace, which allegedly is necessary for any meritorious act. A prominent feature of existentialism is the concept of radical, perpetual, and frequently agonizing freedom of choice. So that's Jean Paul Sartre, for example, spoke of the individual condemned to be free. Then, libertarianism. Libertarianism in the philosophical sense, asserts that free will is incompatible with determinism and that individuals have the ability to make genuinely undetermined choices. So, yes, as you can see from the word liberty itself, that's what uh, we are talking about here. And of course, when we are talking about liberty, we are talking about freedom or the people has their free will. Okay, so libertarians argue that free will requires the ability to choose. Otherwise, in a given situation, and this implies a degree of indeterminacy or randomness in decision making. They often posit that there is a non physical aspect to the self, like a soul or agent position, that allows individuals to transcend deterministic influences. Or what we are saying, you can definitely uh, pull through the system. Okay, so you have uh, free will to choose whatever you wanted to do. Okay, that's what we are talking about here in libertarianism. Then existentialist perspectives. So existentialist philosophers such as John Paul Sartre have contributed unique views on free will. Sartre, for example, argued for radical freedom, suggesting that individuals are condemned to be free and must take responsibility for their choices, regardless of external influences. And do humans do human beings truly have a free will? If free will means that God gives humans the opportunity to make choices that genuinely affect their destiny, then yes, human beings do have a free will. The world's current sinful state is directly linked to choices made by Adam and Eve. God created mankind in his own image, and that included the ability to choose. However, free will does not mean that mankind can do anything he pleases. So when we are saying you are free to actually say whatever you want, that means you must not abuse free will. Okay? And so our choices are limited to what is in keeping with our nature. That means we actually don't have to be controlled by our instincts. And as human beings, that's what separates us from wild animals. You have to make sure that you don't get controlled by your instincts. And yes, as human beings, we have a lot of temptations. Okay? And so, for example, a man may choose to walk across a bridge or not to walk across it. So you have choices. And so, what he may not choose is to fly over the bridge. His nature prevents him from flying. That means we still follow a set of rules and what we actually are. Okay? So, in a similar way, a man cannot choose to make himself righteous. His sin nature prevents him from canceling his guilt. So, free will is limited by nature. This limitation does not mitigate our accountability. The Bible is clear that we not only have the ability to choose, we also have the responsibility to choose wisely. In the Old Testament, God chose a nation, so that is actually Israel, but individuals within that nation still bore an obligation to choose obedience to God. And individuals outside of Israel were able to choose to believe and follow God as well. So that means no one is actually forcing you to do what you actually wanted to do. Or what we say once again, no one in free will, no one is asking you to do the things you have to do. No one is asking you to enter my Zoom meeting. So in free will, it is your choice. In determinism, it feels as if uh, it already happened before and you are just doing it because uh, that's for causation. And so in the New Testament, sinners are commanded over and over to repent and believe. Every call to repent is a call to choose. The command to believe assumes that the hearer can choose to obey the command. Jesus identified the problem of some unbelievers when he told them, "You refuse to come to me to have life." Clearly, they could have come if they wanted to. Their problem was they chose not to. A man reaps what he sows, and those who are outside of salvation are without excuse. But how can man, limited by sin nature, ever choose what is good? It is only through the grace and power of God that free will truly becomes free in the sense of being able to choose salvation. It is the Holy Spirit who works in and through a person's will to regenerate that person and give him or her a new nature, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. Salvation is God's work at the same time. Our motives, desires, and actions are voluntary, and we are rightly held responsible for them. So, yes, in free will, we do have moral responsibility. So, as we end our presentation for today, I will be leaving you with this quote: free will, though it makes evil possible, also makes possible any love or goodness or joy worth having. So that's a quote from C.S. Lewis. And so let's wrap up our lesson for today. Once again, determinism is the idea that everything that happened before it, in other words, it suggests that our actions and choices are like a chain reaction and we don't have time or we don't have true control over them.